In this video, we will be working with fixed positioning. Just like absolute positioning, in fixed positioning, it will take it out of the normal flow and it will no longer affect the position of other elements. However, we don't have to worry about looking for positioned ancestors. It will always be in relation to the browser window. Once you set the left, right, top, or bottom properties, it will stay fixed at that position. Now, if you don't set your left, right, top, or bottom properties, then it will just stay fixed at its normal position. However, it might get a little messy because it will no longer be part of the normal flow. Other elements might end up sitting on top of it or below it. With that said, let's add to our HTML. We'll start a new section, a new article inside that section. In the H2, it will be fixed positioning. And we'll only add one paragraph. It'll say an element with, quote, position fixed, quote, is in position relative to the viewport or the browser window. It always stays in the same place even when you scroll up and down or left and right. Setting the top, bottom, left, or right properties will permanently position the element. Without these properties, it will stay fixed where it normally would be if it had static positioning. However, like I said, it might get a little messy because other elements will adjust themselves to where it will take over where that element normally would be. And you'll see that when we make our header section have fixed positioning. Let's just add one more sentence here. Just like absolute positioning, it will not leave a gap where it normally would be. Let's save that. Go to your CSS, and we'll add a header selector. And I want to do this because I don't want the footer to have fixed positioning. I only want the header to have that. In this header selector, add this declaration, position fixed. Save that. And now when we look at our preview and refresh it, you will find that the main section, this white background with the text positioning schemes and so on, it pushed itself up. And that's because the position of elements with fixed positioning is no longer affecting the normal flow. It pushed itself up. This header also lost its width because it's no longer part of the normal flow. It is no longer inheriting this width of 1000 pixels from the body. Now all it is the padding that we added to it. The top, bottom, left, and right. And you can verify that by inspecting it And you'll see from the CSS box here, box model, that it is 0 by 0 as far as the content because it's empty, but it has a 30 pixel padding all around. Let's add a paragraph in the header section. This header has fixed positioning. Main content, that would be all these different elements that are in the main section. The main content has to move down a little so its top part does not stay covered up. If you look here, the header is covering part of this letter right here. And if we add content to it, then it will get taller and will eventually cover this content here. So one way to get around that is to add a margin to the top of this H1 element here, the positioning schemes H1 element. The way to do this is by adding a margin to the top of the H1 element. Save that, go to our style sheet, and we will create an H1 selector and do just that. We will add a margin to the top of that. Margin dash top, and we'll say 150 pixels. Okay, so that made it 150 pixels, the margin from the top of the browser window to this portion right here. And I'm not going to add much more to the header, so as it gets taller, it will not cover that. Now what I do want to fix is the width of my header. Right now it's just making itself whatever width it's making itself. What I want to do is make it match my width of 1000 pixels. Now here's the deal. Let me do that. I'll make it 1000 pixels. This is what I get. Now I thought we made body 1000 pixels. So if I made this 1000 pixels, why is it longer? Well, that's because by default, width includes padding in the calculation. And that's by default. That means that the header is 1000 pixels, but it's also counting a padding to the left of 30 pixels and a padding to the right of 30 pixels. So this is actually 1060 pixels wide. And let's verify that by using our inspect. Yes, it is 1000 pixels wide. There's a 30 pixel padding on the left, 30 pixel padding on the right, making it 1060. What we need to do then is account for the padding on the left and right sides. So we need to subtract a total of 60 pixels from the width. This needs to be 940. Okay, so that does the trick. Now I want to show you this. When we start messing with positioning by using relative, absolute, or fixed positioning, we end up with an overlapping problem sometimes. And I'll show you. When I made my browser window shorter so that I would have to scroll up and down. And when we get to this paragraph right here, if you recall, it has relative positioning, and then this section here has absolute positioning. Well, it overlaps with the header that has fixed positioning. To fix that, we will have to use the z-index property. The z-index property controls which elements sit on top when using relative, fixed, or absolute positioning. Now you got to remember that the z-index property will not work unless it has a positioning scheme other than static. For a z-index to work, the element either has to be or has to have relative positioning, fixed positioning, or absolute positioning. If you don't specify a z-index value for elements that have relative, fixed, or absolute positioning, then the default would be a value of 0. And right now, for all the elements that have fixed, absolute, and relative positioning, they have a z-index of 0. So they are going to overlap. Now, the higher the number, the closer to the top, the closer to the user. What we can do then is make it so that the header is the one that stays at the top. To do that, we'll use the z-index property. We'll add that to the header, and we'll just set it to 1. That will make it higher than all the others. Save that. Refresh our preview. I'll make my browser window height smaller again so that I have to scroll up and down. Now, when I scroll up and down, it will no longer have that overlapping problem. Now, I accidentally scrolled left and right. That might be an issue if you were really creating an actual website, but for illustration purposes, we're not going to worry about why we have to scroll left and right. Now, it has something to do with this paragraph with relative positioning, but again, we're not going to worry about that. What you will notice also, though, is as I scroll up and down, since the header is fixed, it will always stay right there. And I did not set a top, bottom, left, or right property to that. And as I mentioned here, if we don't set that, it will stay in the same place. Let's see, where is that? It will stay fixed where it normally would be if it had static positioning. The header would normally be here anyway. So when we made it fixed and fixed the width and all that, it will just stay there. All right, so that completes static positioning, relative, absolute, and fixed positioning. In the next video, we will work with the float property.